Hey everyone, it's Lindsay with High Altitude Astrology. And today I wanted to talk with you about Mercury moving into the sign of Pisces. Now, this happened on the 3rd of February, and it's considered in its pre-shadow phase right now because Mercury is going to continue to move forward to 12 degrees of Pisces. And on the 16th of February, it will station and retrograde back. And it's going to go all the way back to 28 degrees of Aquarius. And that is on March 9th. And then it will move forward again, covering the place where it is right now. And you can see it's at 3 degrees of Pisces. And then eventually cross back over the 28 degrees of Pisces, I'm sorry, the 12 degrees of Pisces where it retrograded. So that is to say that basically from now until the 29th of March, we are going to be basically in the Mercury retrograde cycle, even though the Mercury retrograde doesn't specifically occur until the 16th of February. But we are in the shadow period, meaning Mercury will come back to this location in its retrograde cycle and then move direct again across this location until it finally clears 12 degrees of Pisces where it retrograded. So I want to talk about Mercury in the sign of Pisces, and to get us into the feeling of Mercury in the sign of Pisces, I wanted to read something from a book called Planets in Therapy, Predictive Technique and the Art of Counseling. And this is from Greg Bogart. And he's quoting Dane Rudyard, who was a very influential astrologer in regards to blending astrology and psychology together. And this is the quote that I wanted to share from Dane. To the consciousness that has realized the existence of cycles and is able to shift gears from the profane to the sacred, the whole of living becomes imbued with the magic of eternity. Every event is accepted as a necessary phase of the ritual process of existence, radiating at every moment the significance and inner peace that wells out from the security of knowing oneself to be an essential and operative part of a vast cyclic whole. This is the symbolic life. It is also the life of wisdom. For to be wise is to know with unimpeachable knowing that the whole is fulfilling itself at every moment through and within every act of life. Once this life, illumined by non-possessive love, is rooted in the certainty that order, beauty, rhythmic interplay, and the harmony of ever-balanced opposites are here and now, indestructibly. So, to me, that quote embodies what Mercury in Pisces can be about. So Mercury is our thinking, it's our mind, it's our ability to collect facts, collect knowledge, collect information, disseminate knowledge, disseminate facts, disseminate information. It has to do with communicating, talking, sharing. Now, in the sign of Pisces, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it's a time just before spring in the Northern Hemisphere, And it is a mutable water sign. So mutable meaning it's changeable, and water relating to feeling and emotion. So we can put these two together: Mercury thinking, communicating, sharing, expressing through the word, the spoken word. But it's with this totally different kind of energy of water and emotion and feeling. And what can happen when these two come together is that we can be challenged to basically tap into the emotion and the feeling realm and make that the basis of what we do share and what we do communicate and how we actually think and process emotion. So here's an example. We had Mercury move into Pisces on the 3rd of February, and we had the Iowa caucuses in the United States, which are a voting for the upcoming presidential election. And there was a software glitch, and it screwed up all of the results, and the results took a much longer time to actually be produced. And then, of course, there's now suspicion around whether or not the votes are actually accurate because of this technical glitch. But they're saying that there is a paper trail, and that should be sufficient for validating the results. So that's definitely a very Mercury and Pisces kind of feeling. It's like, especially Mercury moving into shadow as it's moving towards retrograde in Pisces. There can be confusion. There can be unclarity. Another example would be the State of the Union that we just recently had, also in America, where the president talks about how much progress he feels he's made since taking office. Again, there's this feeling around what's being said by the president of, well, is that true or is that not true? And then there's this whole fact-checking thing that happens on some of the news sites afterward, trying to clarify whether or not what was actually said was true or not. So there can just be a lot of like this type of strange, confusing, and to be aware that, people could be trying to, influence you through the spoken word in, ways that may not necessarily be for your best interest. They could be trying to persuade you through saying certain things. Now, this is very mundane examples, but there's more to Mercury and Pisces, because Pisces is all about transcendence, and Pisces is all about tapping into the spiritual realm, and it's about the imagination and creative expression. It's about compassion. And I see this Mercury moving into Pisces and spending the next couple of months of February and March in this sign as an opportunity for us to really tap into new ways or alternative ways of expressing ourselves communicatively. And when I say alternative, what I mean is really tapping into our ability to find compassion, our ability to transcend, our ability to let go. Again, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, so it is about ending, preparing for the beginning when we move into Aries. And I feel we are really being asked at this time to connect with some form of communicating that brings forth those sort of more tender expressions of the Pisces nature. Now, I think it's very important that we don't confuse ourselves, or we don't, what's the word when you like believe in an illusion, or just really are taken over so much by the imagination that we lose sight of what's really real, and what's really real, what's really truthful. But I think Mercury is going to be making some really interesting aspects during this retrograde cycle that are going to help us. And I'm going to point a few of these out right now in the chart. I'm going to refresh here. So right now, the moon is in Cancer at 1 degree, and it's heading towards a trine to Mercury in Pisces at 3 degrees. And over the next several hours, the moon's actually going to move over the north node in Cancer. So I think starting out this Mercury in Pisces time with this harmonious angle, the trine to this moon in Cancer and the north node in Cancer, is giving us a feeling of how we can perhaps guide this Mercury and Pisces energy a little bit more during this time. And I think when we look at the Cancer energy, Cancer is also a water energy, but it's about the things that we do that create nurturing for ourselves, the things that we do that create a feeling of home and a feeling of security and nurturance for ourselves. So if we are able to really focus on this north node energy, because what's going to happen is Mercury is going to move forward, but then it's going to come backward. It's going to be tapping into that north node energy 3 times during this retrograde cycle. So I really feel that there's something about this north node in Cancer energy that's going to be helpful for us as we're sort of feeling our way through this Mercury in Pisces time. We need to ask ourselves, does this feel like it's supporting us? Does this feel like it's nurturing us? Does this feel like it's creating a sense of comfort and home for us? And I wanted to briefly read something about the North Node in Cancer for all of us, because we are collectively going through this. And what this website from astrobutterfly.com says is that, and she's talking about how when we have a North Node in a certain sign, there's also a South Node in the opposite sign. And the South Node is about the past and the energy of the past, whereas the North Node is about the future and where we're going to go and our destiny, so to speak. She writes that the South Node in Capricorn is all about fighting to fit in, to gain status, to climb hierarchies, to meet goals, and to have a career. But this comes at a price. When you put all your energy in the outside yourself, you neglect the inner world. So it's important to realize you cannot only work. The mountain goat might reach the top of the mountain, but it's pretty lonely up there. When you're always focusing on the next goal, on the next achievement, you forget who you are. The solution, North Node in Cancer, i.e. building a strong inner foundation, nurturing yourself, doing what's safe and comfortable. The outcome, South Node in Capricorn, is true progress, true achievements that come from a space of comfort and self-confidence. So that's the North Node in Cancer, again, that we're all collectively experiencing, and that this Mercury in Pisces is going to be talking with during this Mercury retrograde cycle. excuse me, during this whole, and the Mercury in Pisces cycle. Now, going back to that Dane Rudyard quote that I said earlier, I feel that we also need to understand that part of Mercury in Pisces is about this transcendent awareness of embracing and accepting what is, and accepting that we are a part of a larger flow, and that flow contains everything. And so we can help ourselves through this Mercury and Pisces time by doing things that help us connect spiritually, so that we can more easily access that flow state and that letting go state that really is required if we want to be more spiritual people in this world. You know, it reminds me of a quote a friend of mine said about how we can't build a wall against a wave. You know, we can try, but it kind of stops the flow. It impedes the flow. And that we just have to, as he says, futile, resistance is futile. And that's very Mercury and Pisces. You know, if we can find a transcendent awareness in the midst of everything, we are going to be assisting ourselves through this Mercury in Pisces and Mercury retrograde time. Now, we're going to have some time to really integrate this perspective, because like I said, the whole Mercury retrograde cycle lasts until the 29th of March, and Mercury continues in the sign of Pisces until April 10th. So, you know, we've got some time here to really learn about this Mercury and Pisces energy, and that's what the retrograde energy is all about too. Now, it's going to retrograde back into Aquarius for a few degrees, until about 28 degrees. And, you know, that just may help a little bit, because Aquarius is a mental energy. It is an air energy, and it's about really also understanding bigger picture ideas, understanding that, you know, we can sort of move towards new futures. And so I feel that when Mercury goes back into Aquarius for a period of time, you know, it may give us a little bit of a boost of mental strength, in a sense, to really integrate more this sort of mental understanding of expansion and moving forward and the future, while we're in this whole cycle of Mercury and Pisces, Mercury retrograde, that's asking us to also really transcend and let go. So a few other timing points of this Mercury in Pisces, Mercury retrograde time. First, so what we had earlier today, and this today is February 5th, what we had earlier was Mercury at 3 degrees of Pisces was sextiling Uranus. And that too is going to happen 3 times during this Mercury retrograde cycle. So this Uranus in Taurus, it's been in the sign of Taurus for a year or so, and it's going to be there for another 6 years. So we are really just beginning to learn about what Uranus and Taurus is all about for us collectively. But Uranus is an awakening energy. It wakes us up mentally. You know, it's almost, in some ways, it's opposite from that Mercury and Pisces kind of fogginess, living in fantasy, living in, you know, denial energy. Mercury, Uranus in Taurus is like waking up. It brings us to the present. Now, it's in the sign of Taurus. And Taurus is all about, I'm going to read some keywords here: self-reliance, stability, thoroughness, patience, perseverance, protectiveness, sensuality, aesthetic sensibility. So these are all the kind of the ways in which we're waking up. You know, we can really be waking up to more of our senses and what brings us real pleasure, and what brings us security, because Taurus is about the things that we invest in order to create security in our life. It's also about our worth and our value. So there's something about Uranus that's waking us up, but it's also shaking us up. It's shaking us loose from this possessive Taurus, like, that's mine, must have it, you know? It's like, and when Mercury's in Pisces, what it's saying is that we can, the mind, in this ability to kind of let go and flow, can work with Uranus, this ability to kind of wake up and release resistance to the things that just are not working, you know, the things that are not truly valuable to us, the things that we hold on to because we always have, or, you know, we think that's what brings us stability when really we're just, you know, stuck. So this Mercury in Uranus is, this Mercury in Pisces sextiling Uranus and Taurus during this whole, you know, Mercury retrograde time is really an opportunity for us to shake ourselves loose from some of these Taurian attachments and to open ourselves up to new, well, really, again, I want to go back to the idea of waking up, of becoming present to what really is valuable for us, to what really does bring us pleasure, to what really does provide us with a security in our life. So the times that those sextiles are going to be happening are today, the 5th of February. It'll happen again when Mercury is retrograde on the 28th of February. And then it'll happen one more time when Mercury is direct on the 22nd of March. So those are just some times to watch for this inspiration, to watch for this energy of awakening, especially within our minds and even our feelings, you know, an ability to really kind of accept Mercury in Pisces, accept this change, Uranus in Taurus, in what we're really wanting to value in our life, and what really is in alignment with our self-worth and what we value. So moving forward here, I wanted to point out that Mercury retrogrades on the 16th of February. And you can see right here is Mercury at 12 Pisces. And if I go forward just a little bit, right there, you can see now it's red at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and it has retrograded. It actually retrogrades at 6:54 p.m., 5:54 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then if we move forward, and it's interesting to note here that Mars has moved into Capricorn earlier in that day. You know, Mars being a sign of action, Capricorn, work, seriousness, effort, perseverance. But going back to Mercury, so it's gone retrograde at this point. And then if we move forward to the 25th, there we go, we can see that the sun and Mercury conjunct. So this is the sun moving forward, but Mercury at this point is moving backward. And here they meet. And this is going to be significant because we've got the sun, which is the solar expression of our identity, our light, how we shine out into the world. It's now meeting up with Mercury retrograde in Pisces, and they're going to have a conversation. And Mercury is going to be sharing with the sun some of what it's learned so far in this Mercury in Pisces, Mercury retrograde time. And it's going to sort of inform the sun how the solar energy wants to then move forward with this new understanding, you know, with this new insight from the Mercury in Pisces, this transcendent awareness that has, you know, been awakened by the sextile with Uranus, and has been supported by the North Node in Cancer energy. So that's an interesting time to point out during this cycle with the sun conjuncting Mercury. And then what's also going to happen that day too is that Mercury is going to join in a sextile with Mars. So really the sun is going to be, Mars is going to be giving strength to both the sun and Mercury at this time to really sort of take on the work and effort of moving forward, self-asserting in this Capricornian way, in this way of like taking responsibility for our thinking and for shining our light out into the world with this Piscean compassion and transcendent and really, you know, very all-encompassing kind of perspective and understanding. But there's sort of a seriousness and a responsibility that Mars and Capricorn is going to bring to really helping us kind of move forward in this new way of really being able to transcend situations that are not really helpful or not really in alignment with us. So I think this is a really positive connection with Mars and Capricorn sextiling the Sun and Mercury at that time throughout this process. Mercury retrogrades back into Aquarius. This is on the 4th of March, early in the morning. And then Mercury is going to be sextiling Venus on the day that Mercury moves back into Aquarius. And you can see Venus is here at 29 degrees of Aries. It will almost be out of Aries. And there's Mercury at 29 degrees of Aquarius. Now, this seems significant too, because here we've had Mars speaking with Mercury through this process, but now we have Venus speaking with Mercury. And Mercury is back in Aquarius. Mercury is now back in this mental energy of basically like wanting to progress. That's what Aquarius is a lot about. It's about moving into the future. So it's thinking in that way at this point. You know, it's thinking about moving forward and progress, and it's thinking in new ways, and it's thinking in progressive ways. Some key words for Aquarius: inspiration, independence, unconventionality, liberation, inclusiveness, detachment. So it's going to be helping really this Mercury in Pisces, Mercury retrograde cycle, because it's going to kind of give Mercury a little bit of a boost. It's saying, okay, just in case this Mercury retrograde and Mercury in Pisces time has been sort of throwing you for a loop and making you feel confused, or making you feel, you know, like you can't really get it, or, you know, you can't really let go. You know, Mercury in Aquarius is kind of saying it's a detached energy. You know, it kind of does, it's an air energy. It doesn't come from the place of emotion like Pisces. It's very intellectual. So it's just an opportunity to kind of feel that energy again for a little period of time. And it's sextiling Venus and Aries. And Venus and Aries is about getting satisfaction or finding pleasure or being social in these Aryan ways, you know, in these really kind of going for it and putting ourselves out there and being courageous and being assertive, you know. So Mercury and Venus are coming together in this opportunity energy to basically kind of say, hey, you know, we can move forward. Venus in Aries, and we can find new experiences. Now, they do say that sometimes something in the last degree of a sign, just before it's about to change signs, that it can sort of enhance perhaps some of the more challenging energies of that sign. So this could bring about some really maybe almost like pushiness or must have our way type of energy. Venus wanting to find pleasure and wanting to have its senses satisfied in this Aryan, like, you know, really aggressive style, assertiveness, courage, pioneering spirit. But again, with that sextile to Mercury, I mean, in Aquarius is sort of like, I don't want to get too messy with stuff, you know? So it's helping with that Venus and Aries, almost like impulsiveness. It's sort of saying, all right, let's be cool here. Let's think about this. Let's be calm and collected. And let's not, like, you know, make any rash decisions based on momentary pleasure, basically. All right, so that's Mercury sextiling Venus while Mercury's still retrograde. Now, on the 9th, Mercury goes direct. Mercury now is direct on the 9th of March at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then on the 16th, it goes back into Pisces. And then the last two energies I've already spoken about is the last trine to the North Node on the 21st. And you can see Mercury there. I'll forward a little bit. The North Node is now at 4 degrees of Cancer. There's Mercury trining it. And here's the moon in Pisces at that time too. So the moon's, you know, there helping us to emotionally integrate this experience with the Mercury trining the North Node. And then finally, on the 22nd, the next day, we will get Mercury sextiling Uranus one more time. And then finally, on the 29th of March, Mercury moves out of shadow, because again, 12 degrees of Pisces is the degree that it retrograded at. So that is my overview of Mercury moving into Pisces and Mercury going retrograde back into Aquarius, then coming out of retrograde, moving into Pisces again. I hope this has helped you understand the Mercury retrograde cycle at this time that we're all going through. In general, I feel that this is really an opportunity, this Mercury retrograde cycle, for us to attempt to clarify situations in our life from a very heart-opened, centered, spiritual, transcendent space where we're not allowing ourselves to really go into a state of confusion and muddledness and sadness and longing. You know, even if you do experience some of that during this Mercury and Pisces time and Mercury retrograde, I think it's really our responsibility to take the time to be with those experiences within ourselves and to really like own our emotions at this time. You know, especially because during this time, Venus is going to come into the sign of Aries, and that's going to happen on the 8th of February, and it's going to be in Aries most of the time during this Mercury retrograde cycle. And I feel that with Mercury, with Venus in Aries, this is the beginning, a new beginning for expressing our Venusian energy. You know, our energy of seeking pleasure, our energy of wanting to be social, our energy of wanting to be creative, and our energy of expressing affection. This is a new cycle with Venus and Aries, and this Mercury in Pisces, Mercury retrograde time during this Venus and Aries cycle, it's asking us to really become more conscious and more aware and wake up to how we communicate and how we express ourselves and express our thoughts in a way that really helps us heal and helps others heal. And I think that's really the opportunity we have during this cycle, is for a lot of healing to occur if we can tap into transcendent awareness and spiritual awareness and not get bogged down in the emotional muck that sometimes Mercury and Pisces can bring about. And here are some key words for the sort of the not so pleasant expressions of Pisces: dependence, dreaminess, vagueness, confusion, self-destruction, and martyrdom. You know, we really have an opportunity to review, that's what retrograde cycles are about, our way of communicating, our way of connecting intellectually, and our way of thinking about things, and really being able to awaken to realizing through the process of seeing and then transcending, seeing and letting go, and not holding on to these old ways of thinking and communicating that really need to be transcended and let go. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you like my channel, please subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next for a full moon in Leo video. Take care.